Good morning and welcome to Morning Special, your morning energy. And I'm your special host, 조주연. 7월 25일 Morning Headlines 시작합니다. South Korea reported 65,433 new COVID-19 cases on Sunday amid the spread of a highly contagious Omicron subvariant. The World Health Organization has declared monkeypox a public health emergency of international concern, activating its high-key grain exporting port of Odessa hours after signing an international agreement to reopen ports on the Black Sea and resume grain exports. The Russian central bank governor has warned that Russia will not supply oil to countries that impose a price cap on its oil. A fast-moving brush fire near Yosemite National Park has become one of California's largest wildfires of the year. Evacuation orders have been put in effect for more than 6,000 people. Okay, now let's take a closer look at today's headlines one by one.
South Korea reported 65,433 new COVID-19 cases on Sunday amid the spread of a highly contagious Omicron subvariant.
네, 전염성이 강한 오미크론 하위 변이가 확산되고 있는 가운데 일요일 발표 기준으로 65,433명의 코로나19 신규 확진자가 발생했습니다. 네, 그리고 국내에서 코로나19 재유행이 지속됨에 따라서 오늘부터 해외에서 국내로 입국하는 사람들은 입국 1일차에 코로나19 PCR 유전자 증폭 검사를 받아야 된다는데요. So tell us more about it.
Sure. So with this case number of just over 65,000 on Sunday, that means that Korea has remained under 70,000 cases a day for the past 3 days. However, it should be said the tally for Sunday's cases was at a 14-week high. Generally speaking, Sundays are a low number day. There were 333 cases from overseas, and that brings us to a total caseload of 19,211,613 cases. There were 146 critically ill patients, up 6 from the day before, and 18 new deaths.
That's right. 그래서 지금 7만 명 이하로 유지가 됐던 그 일수는 그래도 3일 연속이긴 했지만 대체적으로 저희가 토요일, 일요일 그리고 일요일 같은 경우에는 수치가 좀 낮거든요. 그럼에도 불구하고 이 14주차 중에서도 가장 높은 수준으로 일요일을 기록을 했다고 합니다. 그래서 일요일은 대체적으로 검사를 받는 수가 좀 떨어지기 때문에 일요일 수치는 좀 낮지만 안심하기엔 좀 글렀죠. 그리고 해외 유입이 333명, 그리고 총 1,921만 명 정도가 계속해서 코로나19 확진자로 기록이 되고 있기 때문에 아직은 좀 안심하기가 이른 것 같습니다. So I believe that once again we mentioned for those who are coming in from overseas, we do have to take caution because there have been 333 cases.
Yes.
And you do have to take a PCR test the day you arrive.
Exactly, and it's all because of this highly contagious Omicron subvariant, BA.5.
That's right. 뭔가 그 전염성이 훨씬 더 높다고 하는 BA.5 이 변이가 계속해서 확산되고 있기 때문에 좀 더 주의를 요해야 될 것 같습니다. So we also looked at an expression, a highly contagious Omicron subvariant. 전염성이 강한 오미크론 변이라는 건데요. Can you break it down for us a little bit?
Sure. So we talk about a subvariant is we have a variant of COVID-19 and we've had quite a few over the past few years. And then it's a variant of the variant,
That's
which
right.
makes it a subvariant. And here, highly contagious. If something is contagious, it's an illness or virus that is easily spread. So if it's highly contagious, it spreads really, really quickly and really, really easily.
That's right. Contagious, 전염성이 강하다라는 건데 여기서 또 하나 쓸 수 있는 단어가 transmissible. You can also say that that's also a word for contagious.
Yes.
All right. Can we read the headlines one more time, please?
South Korea reported 65,433 new COVID-19 cases on Sunday amid the spread of a highly contagious Omicron subvariant.
All right. Then let's move on to the second headline.
The World Health Organization has declared monkeypox a public health emergency of international concern, PHEIC, activating its highest alert level.
세계보건기구 WHO가 원숭이 두창 감염 사태에 대해 국제적 공중보건 비상사태를 선포하면서 최고 경계 수준을 가동했습니다. So can you tell us more?
Yes, by declaring this to be a PHEIC, that means the WHO thinks it's a significant enough threat to global health that there needs to be a coordinated international response. And this is not a decision taken lightly. This is the WHO's emergency committee meeting, then making the recommendation to the Director General, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, who made the statement just a few days ago. He said the global risk is moderate, but the threat in Europe is high because Europe has more than 80% of the world's cases at the moment. It is the epicenter of the outbreak. And the other issue is it's spreading rapidly through new modes of transmission. And they don't understand enough about that. We're looking at 16,000 cases this year, and that's in 70 countries. There have been 5 deaths from monkeypox in Africa this year, but no deaths reported elsewhere.
That's right. 세계보건기구에서 긴급회의를 소집을 하면서 이 PHEIC, 국제적 공중보건 비상사태를 선포를 하게 되었습니다. 얼마 전까지만 해도 사실 이게 이 정도 급은 아니었는데 긴급회의가 소집된 이유 자체도 지금 유럽 내에서는 조금은 위험하게 번지고 있다라는 그런 의견들이 나오고 있었기 때문에 소집을 하고 최고 경계 수준을 가동을 한 것이고요. 지금까지는 코로나19 그리고 폴리오, 소아마비만 이 상태로 유지가 되고 있는데 지금 여기에 이 원숭이 두창 감염에도 같이 포함이 된 것입니다. So 80% of the cases are in Europe. 유럽 내에서의 확산이 지금 좀 위험한 수준이죠. 80%가 여기서 나오고 있고 16,000명 정도가 보고가 되었는데 이게 70개국에 걸쳐서 있습니다. So it's not a global issue, not just yet.
No, but every single country should be aware. You know, Korea, we had one case coming in who was successfully treated, but
right.
we all have to be careful and we have to do our best to prevent the spread of monkeypox.
So a public health emergency international concern, so PHEIC, 국제적 공중보건 비상사태라고 해서 이게 하나의 통 단어라고 사용을 하시면 되겠습니다. And what are they doing if they're activating its highest alert level?
Well, we talk about alert levels for different things. It could be for diseases. It could be for the weather.
Yes.
It could be for national defense. So we have a lowest alert level, meaning there's not much going on. It's fine. Nobody has to be careful. And it goes to a medium, and then to the highest level means we have to be the most careful we have to be. So here they've activated the highest alert level. This is the most they're going to do in terms of telling people you need to be careful. The thing is, the WHO cannot issue mandates.
That's right.
It can only issue guidance and recommendations for its member states.
강령. 그러니까 이걸 강조를 해서 모든 국가들이 이렇게 최고 경계 수준을 가동을 해야 된다라고는 못합니다. 그래서 그것을 강압적으로 밀어붙일 수는 없지만 모든 국가들에게 이렇게 경계를 해야 된다라고 권고를 할 수 있는 상황이죠. Can you read us the headlines one more time, please?
The World Health Organization has declared monkeypox a public health emergency of international concern, PHEIC, activating its highest alert level.
All right, and let's move on to the third headline for today.
Russia has launched a missile attack on Ukraine's key grain exporting port of Odessa, hours after signing an international agreement to reopen ports on the Black Sea and resume grain exports.
흑해의 항로를 마련하고 곡물 수출을 재개하기로 합의한 국제협약에 서명한 지 몇 시간 만에 러시아가 우크라이나의 주요 곡물 수출항인 오데사를 미사일로 공격했습니다. Worrying once again. Please
Yes.
tell us the details.
Well, on Friday, there was cause for celebration when the agreement was signed between Ukraine, Russia, and Turkey. And then Saturday, just one day later, a matter of hours later, these Russian missiles hit the Ukrainian port of Odessa. Ukraine said that Russia had delivered a slap to the UN and Turkey with this attack, and that it'll bear responsibility for the failure of the agreement that was signed. The deal was actually the first deal the two countries had made since the war in Ukraine began, and it was going to allow Ukrainian ships to export grain through the waters of the Black Sea, and that Turkish officials would be checking to make sure there were no smuggled weapons in the cargo, and that both countries would not attack port facilities or civilian ships used for grain transport. Russia has already broken that agreement. It hit. Two missiles hit the port's infrastructure and another two were shot down by Ukrainian air defense forces.
That's right. 우크라이나 측에서는 이게 처음에는 대대적인 합의였습니다. 그래서 금요일 날 너무나도 자축을 하는 분위기였으나 오히려 이로 인해서 더 신뢰를 잃었다라고 얘기를 하고 있고요. 그리고 오히려 이 계약 자체가 그리고 합의 자체가 전쟁이 발발한 이후에 처음으로 계약 체결을 한 것이었기 때문에 굉장히 좀 큰 행사였는데 그래서 우크라이나에서 곡물 수출을 다시 원활하게 하면서 전 세계적으로 이에 대한 물가 안정이 어느 정도는 조금 되지 않을까 아니면은 식량 안보에 좀 완화가 되지 않을까 했었는데 그에 대해서 바로 러시아가 이렇게 공격을 하면서 그 합의 자체가 깨진 것입니다. So they wanted to resume grain exports.
Yes, so if we resume something, we start it up again. So we pause and then resume, or
Yes.
stop and then resume. For example, I stop speaking
And then you resume.
and then I resume. Yes.
네, 재개하다라는 뜻에서 resume이 나왔는데요. grain exports 같은 경우에는 이제 곡물, grain이라는 뜻이고 export는 수출을 하다는 것이죠. 한동안 그 항구가 막혀 있으면서 수출을 못했었는데 그것을 재개할 수 있으려나 하는 희망이 있었지만 그에 대해서도 이제 러시아가 다시 한번 그렇게 반박을 하면서 합의를 깬 것입니다. So let's read the headlines once again.
Russia has launched a missile attack on Ukraine's key grain exporting port of Odessa, hours after signing an international agreement to reopen ports on the Black Sea and resume grain exports.
네, 그럼 다음으로 네 번째 헤드라인 살펴보겠습니다.
The Russian central bank governor has warned that Russia will not supply oil to countries that impose a price cap on its oil.
러시아 중앙은행 총재는 자국 수출 원유에 가격 상한제를 도입하는 국가에는 원유 공급을 하지 않겠다고 경고했습니다. So they are warning countries now with their oil.
Yes, this was given in a briefing on Friday by Elvira Nabiullina, the governor of the Russian central bank. She says Russia is not going to supply oil to these countries who are going to impose a price cap. It's in retaliation to this proposal by G7 nations that has the purpose, the aim of stripping Russia of energy revenues. The governor said that by doing this, they would spur on global oil prices, increase global oil prices. And this all comes from a suggestion from US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. The thing is, we don't have any details on what this may be yet, but certainly Russia is taking a step forward to say they are completely against it.
That's right. 얼마 전에 G7 nations가 그 정상회의를 가졌었죠. 그래서 Group of Seven, 7개의 선진 국가들의 정상들이 합의를 한 것이 우리가 이제 러시아가 계속해서 원유로 인해서 수입이 증가하고 있다. 그래서 국제에너지기구에 따르면 올해 5월 한 달 동안에만 석유 수출로 약 200억 달러, 한국으로 원화로는 약 26조 원 정도의 수익을 올렸다라고 얘기를 하고 있는데 이러한 수익을 어느 정도 원천 봉쇄를 하기 위해서 cut it from the source 하기 위해서 이 Group of Seven Nations는 받지 않겠다라고 했었는데요. 그에 대해서 반박을 하는 것입니다. 러시아 중앙은행 총재가 이렇게 얘기를 한 것이죠. 만약에 상한제를 두면 우리는 그냥 원유 공급 아예 하지 않겠다라고 얘기를 한 것입니다. So imposing a price cap, what is that?
Well, a cap, if we think of a bottle, for example, a bottle has a cap.
Yes.
When you put the cap on the bottle, you can't put any more in or take any more out. So a price cap is setting that limit, stopping the price from going above that point.
That's right.
And if we impose something, we put it onto something or onto someone. So we impose a law on a group of people or impose a restriction of some kind. Or if you're at a party, you may feel you're imposing on your host, spending too much time there.
Yes. Spending too much time and not leaving. 네, 뭔가 impose라고 하면은 부과하다라는 뜻에서 사용이 되는 동사입니다. 여기서 price cap라고 했는데 cap은 뚜껑이라고 생각하시면 돼요. 그래서 어떤 용기에다 뚜껑을 덮어두면은 거기서 더 넘치거나 더 부족하거나 할 수가 없는 상황이니까 상한 선을 만들다라고 얘기를 할 때 put a price cap or put a cap on it 이렇게 얘기를 할 수 있습니다. So can we read the headline one more time, please?
The Russian central bank governor has warned Russia will not supply oil to countries that impose a price cap on its oil.
All right, let's go over the final headline for today.
A fast-moving brush fire near Yosemite National Park has become one of California's largest wildfires of the year. Evacuation orders have been put in effect for more than 6,000 people.
요세미티 국립공원 인근에서 발생한 산불이 올해 캘리포니아의 초대형 산불 중 하나로 확산하면서 주민 6천여 명에게 대피령이 발효되었습니다. So another forest fire in California or in this region once again.
Yeah, it's scary to see so many wildfires, and this has become one of the largest of the year in California. It's called the Oak Fire, and it started on Friday afternoon southwest of Yosemite National Park, a park that's famous for its beautiful, huge sequoias, these massive trees
Yes.
that are in danger of being burnt. And by Saturday morning, the fire had already destroyed 10 residential and commercial structures. It had damaged 5 others. It was threatening at least 2,000 more structures. And more than 2,600 homes and businesses lost power over the weekend. 2,000 firefighters plus helicopters, aircraft, bulldozers were all in action, coming together to tame the fire. And a state of emergency has been declared, but the fire is not out yet.
That's right. 계속되고 있는 산불인데요. 이게 캘리포니아 같은 경우에는 매년마다 이런 산불로 인해서 참 고통을 안고 있는데 이번에도 올해의 가장 큰 산불이 발생을 했습니다. Oak Fire라고 얘기를 하고 있는데 이게 이제 그 산불에 대해서 명칭을 불릴 만큼 그만큼 규모가 있다는 거예요. Yosemite National Park 국립공원인데 굉장히 규모도 크고 또 너무나도 큰 그런 산맥과 이런 나무들이 많은데 참 안타깝습니다. It's very sad to hear that Yosemite Park or part of the national park is caught in a brush fire.
Yes, and well, the reason for it is quite clear. They've had very hot weather, they've had very low humidity, and they've got bone dry vegetation. They've had the biggest drought for decades, and
That's
this
right.
is the big cause. And the really scary thing is that while the Oak Fire was starting on Friday, they were still trying to contain the Washburn Fire, which started nearby on July 7th. It's now about 79% contained, but that fire is still going. So the fire department, or the many fire departments in the counties around, are trying to deal with 2 big fires at once.
That's right. 지금 옥파이어뿐만이 아닙니다. 그래서 아직까지도 충분히 진압을 하지 못한 Washburn Fire 같은 경우에도 옆에서 이미 진행이 되고 있었고 7월 7일부터 계속되고 있었는데 지금은 한 80%, 79% 정도 진압이 됐다고 해요. 근데 결국에는 원인을 보니 너무나도 고온 그리고 다습한 게 아니라 이게 습도가 굉장히 낮습니다. 습도가 낮고 건조한데 뜨거우니까 계속해서 이런 산불이 발생을 하는 것이고요. 그리고 bone dry vegetation이라고 얘기를 했습니다. I think that this is a very interesting expression because it's bone dry.
Yeah, meaning completely dry.
Exactly.
Think of a bone you might find out in the desert that's been lying there for weeks or months.
Exactly.
There's no moisture left. It's completely brittle, dry. And if it's vegetation like that, ready to to burn.
뭔가 뼈인데 사막에서 오랫동안 뼈가 있었으면은 그 수분감이 다 빠지겠죠. 그래서 뼈가 완전히 으스러질 정도로 건조하다라고 얘기를 했는데 이게 vegetation, 결국에는 식물이 이렇게 건조하다는 것은 조금만 스쳐도 이게 산불로 발생을 할 수 있다는 거죠. 그게 바로 원인이라는 겁니다. 지금 현재 2천여 명의 소방관들이 함께 합류가 되어서 현재까지는 14,000에이커 거의 57제곱킬로미터 정도 규모가 산불로 지금 진압이 되고 있다고 합니다. 그래서 unfortunately, we'll have to keep an eye on that. The expression evacuation orders have been put in effect.
Yes, we put something in effect means we make it happen. In this case, it's the evacuation order for 6,000 residents saying, get out now.
For your safety.
Take your family, take your pets, leave the area.
That's right. 지금 대피령이 발효되었다. 안전하지 않으니까 한 6천여 명의 주민들이 대피를 해야 되는 소동이 벌어지고 있습니다. So lastly, can we read the headline, please?
A fast-moving brush fire near Yosemite National Park has become one of California's largest wildfires of the year. Evacuation orders have been put in effect for more than 6,000 people.
Well, those have been today's morning special headlines. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Special, your morning energy. I'm your special host, 조주연. 7월 26일 Morning Headlines 시작합니다. The FBI has found that Chinese-made Huawei equipment placed on cell towers in the Midwest can disrupt communications from U.S. Strategic Command, which oversees the country's nuclear weapons. Sakurajima volcano on Japan's southern island of Kyushu has erupted, prompting the government to announce the highest alert level for people to evacuate. China has successfully docked a new laboratory module with its orbiting space station, following a high-profile launch from the country's coastal spaceport. At least 17 Haitian migrants have been found dead after their vessel capsized off the coast of the Bahamas. Shops in France will soon be ordered to keep their doors closed when using air conditioning and limit neon lighting in a bid to cut energy waste. All right, Ray, let's go over today's headlines in detail.
The FBI has found that Chinese-made Huawei equipment placed on cell towers in the Midwest can disrupt communications from U.S. Strategic Command, which oversees the country's nuclear weapons.
미국 연방수사국 FBI에 따르면 중서부 기지국에 설치된 중국 화웨이 장비가 미국 핵무기 관련 국방부 통신을 방해할 수 있는 것으로 조사되었습니다. Yes, so tell us more about it.
Well, it's unclear if the intelligence community has determined whether any data was actually intercepted and sent back to Beijing from these towers. And the reason for that is because sources who are very familiar with this issue, they've said that it's incredibly difficult to prove. It's very difficult to prove if any data was actually stolen and sent overseas. Not surprisingly, the Chinese government strongly denies this. They strongly deny any efforts to spy on the U.S. And Huawei has also denied that its equipment is capable of intercepting such data.
이 intelligence community라고 얘기를 하는 것은 결국에는 연방수사국 FBI를 지칭을 하는 표현입니다. 그래서 뭔가 이 지능정보국이라고도 많이들 얘기를 하면서 intelligence라고 많이 활용을 하는데요. 이 FBI에서는 사실 실제로 데이터가 포착이 되어서 그 중국으로 다시 전송이 되었을지 그에 대해서는 입증하기가 굉장히 어렵다. 당연히 그렇겠죠. 그리고 중국 측에서는 이에 대해서 전면 부인을 하고 있습니다. But in fact, a lot of the sources say that this investigation, they told a lot of media outlets that Huawei equipment does have the ability to do so.
Right, absolutely has the ability is some of the phrasing that I saw.
Yes.
Huawei has said that that their equipment can't do this, but many sources. So CNN kind of brought this whole story to light. It's not really even known when this investigation actually started. They say it may have started all the way back during the Obama administration.
That's right.
So they're saying that no, Huawei's equipment can absolutely intercept not only commercial cell traffic, but also highly restricted airwaves that are used by the military. And in the Midwest, there are a lot of military bases and
that's
the
right.
Nuclear silos.
사실 이게 문제가 되는 이유가 국방부 그리고 국무부 쪽에서 사용을 하는 그런 교신이나 데이터 같은 것들이 혹시라도 실수라도 even if it's a mistake, right? That kind of data is invaluable to the government.
Oh, absolutely. It's not the kind of thing that the Americans want anyone to get, especially the Chinese government.
많은 경우에는 정부에서 이런 데이터 유출을 좀 막으려고 많이 노력을 할 텐데요. 일부에서는 이게 대체 언제부터 이러한 조사가 시작이 되었었는지 그리고 이 조사 결과물이 발견이 됐는지 모른다. 근데 오바마 행정부 때부터일 거라고도 추정하는 식이 있고요. And also, last week, Reuters reported that the Biden administration was investigating Huawei over these matters.
Exactly. They're looking into it to see if any of Huawei's equipment that is placed on or fitted on cell phone towers, and it's at the very top of it, is that a threat to national security? So another administration is also looking into this. So this could be the third administration that's concerned about this.
That's right. 이 세 차례의 행정부가 이렇게 조사를 착수를 하는 굉장히 좀 중요한 사안이었던 것 같습니다. So can we read the headline one more time, please?
The FBI has found that Chinese-made Huawei equipment placed on cell towers in the Midwest can disrupt communications from U.S. Strategic Command, which oversees the country's nuclear weapons.
Thank you very much. And now let's move on to the second headline.
Sakurajima volcano on Japan's southern island of Kyushu was erupted, prompting the government to announce the highest alert level for people to evacuate.
일본 규슈섬 남쪽에 위치한 사쿠라지마 화산이 분화하면서 일본 기상청은 분화 경계 레벨을 가장 높은 피난으로 격상했습니다. So, another volcano eruption in Japan. It's very unfortunate, but can you tell us some more details?
The good news is that no reports of injuries or damage has come out, so that's one good side of it. The Japan Meteorological Agency said the volcano erupted on Sunday evening around 8 p.m. local time, with a smaller eruption occurring at around 6:30 a.m. Monday. The agency said late Sunday that it was not currently expecting a large eruption, another large eruption, similar to one they saw in 1914 that actually caused a large number of deaths. However, NASA says that Sakurajima is one of Japan's most active volcanoes. It's erupted several times in recent decades, even as early as late as January.
That's right.
Right, it spewed a cloud of ash kilometers into the air. Another thing is another good thing. Japan's nuclear regulators said that no irregularities had been detected at a nearby nuclear power plant, which is actually only 70 kilometers to the west of this volcano.
So knock on wood.
Yes.
Yes. 이 일본 기상청에서 다행스럽게도 아무도 피해나 사상자는 없었다고 보도를 했습니다. 하지만 일요일 저녁에 한 차례 그리고 나서는 월요일 오전에 새벽녘에 한 차례 또 추가적인 그런 분화 사건이 있었기 때문에 계속해서 예의주시를 하면서 이 경계 레벨을 가장 높은 피난으로 격상을 한 것인데요. 사실 1914년에 동일한 화산에서 분화가 되면서 그때는 사실 좀 사상자가 꽤 많았습니다. 그래서 안심을 한다라고는 하는데 하지만 지금 나사 측에서는 오히려 사쿠라지마 화산 같은 경우에는 가장 활동적인 활화산 중에 하나이기 때문에 좀 계속해서 예의주시해야 된다라는 경고를 날리고 있습니다. 그리고 또 안전한 것은 그나마 지금 굉장히 가까운 곳에 원전이 하나 있는데 아직까지는 좀 상황이 안전한 상황이라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. Alright, can we read the headline one more time, please?
Sakurajima volcano on Japan's southern island of Kyushu was erupted, prompting the government to announce the highest alert level for people to evacuate.
All right, let's move on to headline number 3.
China has successfully docked a new laboratory module with its orbiting space station, following a high-profile launch from the country's coastal spaceport.
중국의 새롭게 개발된 실험창 모듈이 해안 우주 발사장에서 세간의 이목을 끌며 발사된 후 우주 정거장 도킹에 성공했습니다. So this is some great news for humanity and for China, right?
Definitely for China, absolutely. So the Wentian module was launched on a Long March 5B rocket from the tropical island of Hainan Island at 2:22 p.m. local time on Sunday. It was a very high-profile launch, so a lot of people were very, very interested in this. It got a lot of media coverage. Crowds of people watched from nearby beaches and were really cheering this on because it is a huge moment, a huge accomplishment for the Chinese space program, which doesn't get assistance from other countries.
That's right. 얼마 전에 우리 그 발사 때도 사실 한국에서도 이렇게 발사를 했을 때 굉장히 좀 많은 분들께서 직접 그 지역에 가서 목격도 하시고 했었는데 마찬가지였을 것 같습니다. 중국에서도 이렇게 굉장히 좀 희소식이 전해지는 것이고요. 중국 입장에서는 너무나도 잘된 일이겠죠. Let's look at an expression, has successfully docked a new laboratory module.
Yeah, it's connected.
Yes,
so
exactly.
There's one piece, one module that's already in space orbiting, and now another one went up, it docked, it connected. And interesting enough, a second laboratory segment is going to be launched in October, and that's going to be the final piece of China's 3-module space station. It's going to be called the Tiangong Space Station.
That's right.
And this space program, China's space program in general, is run by the Communist Party, the military wing of the Communist Party. So this is why the U.S. excluded China from the International Space Station. So China's space program has proceeded largely without the assistance of any other country.
That's right. 이게 정치적인 이슈도 같이 불거져 있기 때문에 사실 중국은 그 외에 국제사회의 전혀 도움도 받지 못하고 이렇게 개발을 해 나가면서 했기 때문에 어떻게 보면 중국 내에서는 더 환호를 하는 그런 상황이겠죠. docked라는 표현이 나왔습니다. D-O-C-K-E-D 라는 표현인데 항구에 배가 정박을 할 때에도 dock이라는 얘기를 합니다. So even when vessels or ships go to port, you also call it dock. But then again, when you're connecting two computers together or when you're connecting IT devices together, you can also call it docking, right?
Exactly.
그래서 둘 다 같이 사용을 할 수 있는 것입니다. IT 기기들을 요즘에는 많이 연결을 해서 사용을 하시잖아요. 그럴 때에도 도킹을 시키다 이런 식으로 동사로 활용을 할 수 있습니다. And what does it mean by if it's a high profile?
Gets a lot of attention. So we saw that a lot of people were watching. It got a lot of media coverage.
That's right.
So that means it's a high profile event.
high profile event 또는 high profile person 이렇게 얘기를 할 때는 뭔가 이목을 끌고 굉장히 사람들이 관심을 많이 가져주는 그런 현상 또는 사람에 대한 표현입니다. 이거에 대한 반대로는 low profile이라고도 할 수 있겠죠. 그럼 반대 의미로 해석을 하시면 되겠습니다. Okay, now the headline one more time, please, Ray.
China has successfully docked a new laboratory module with its orbiting space station following a high-profile launch from the country's coastal spaceport.
네, 그럼 다음으로 네 번째 헤드라인 살펴보겠습니다.
At least 17 Haitian migrants have been found dead after their vessel capsized off the coast of the Bahamas.
IT 이민자들을 싣고 항해하던 선박이 바하마 앞바다에서 전복해 최소 17명이 사망했습니다. So, unfortunate news. Can you tell us more about it?
The Bahamian Prime Minister, Philip Davis, told reporters that authorities believe the people were on a speedboat heading for Miami, and the boat unfortunately capsized, which means turned upside down in rough seas. Rescue teams from the Bahamas were able to save 5 people who were on board. The police commissioner said around 60 people may have been on board, so more are presumed missing. Somewhere maybe around 20 people, between 12 and 20 people perhaps, could still be missing.
Yes. 25 people who are on board were able to be saved. 25명은 그래도 안전하게 저희가 구출을 했고요. 그렇지만 그럼에도 불구하고 60명 정도가 탑승을 하고 있는 그 배였기 때문에 아직까지도 저희 찾지 못했던 분들이 좀 남아있는 것 같습니다. 그리고 이 배 같은 경우에는 이 선박이 마이애미를 향해 가던 스피드보트였습니다. So it was a speedboat. So that's why it was fast, traveling fast, and that's why it capsized. capsize라는 표현이 사용이 됐었는데 뭔가 배가 전복이 되다, 뒤집혀서 완전히 거꾸로 떠 있다 이렇게 얘기를 할 때 capsize 이런 표현을 사용을 할 수 있습니다. 안타깝게도 아직까지 구출되지 못했던 분들이 있는데요. So let's hope that we find those missing people.
Well, authorities in the Bahamas have taken 2 people into custody, both from the Bahamas, who they suspect are involved in this human smuggling operation. Mm-hmm. And everybody on board the boat, they're believed to be Haitians, who are, more and more Haitians are trying to leave their country. They're trying to reach the U.S. to flee the horrible gang violence and the poverty in that country.
IT에서는 사실 점점 더 많은 국민들이 이렇게 미국 측으로 피난을 가거나 아니면은 뭔가 폭력이나 갱 활동에서 피해 보려고 많이들 미국으로 이민을 시도를 하고 있는데 이런 식으로 불법으로 인신 매매를 하는 활동들이 많이 있다고 합니다. 그래서 바하마 측의 그 주 당국이 오히려 2명을 지금 체포를 했다고 얘기를 하고 있고요. 앞으로 이 소식도 혹시라도 업데이트가 되면 더 알려드리도록 하겠습니다. So can we read the headlines one more time, please?
At least 17 Haitian migrants have been found dead after their vessel capsized off the coast of the Bahamas.
All right, let's go over the final headline for today.
Shops in France will soon be ordered to keep their doors closed when using air conditioning and limit neon lighting in a bid to cut energy waste.
프랑스는 에너지 절감을 위해 냉난방 시 상점 문을 개방하는 행위나 심야 조명 광고 사용을 금지하겠다고 밝혔습니다. I guess that this is a worldwide phenomenon, and there's a lot of municipalities in Korea that are also trying this out.
Exactly. We have to cut energy waste somehow,
That's right.
These rules in France are already in place in some areas, but the Minister of Ecological Transition said they will be rolled out across the country in the coming days. Shops will be fined up to €750 for breaking the air conditioning rule, and neon signs will be banned now in all cities between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m., with the exception of airports and train stations.
That's right. 프랑스 그 정부에서는 계속해서 이렇게 에너지 절감을 위해서 그리고 에너지가 손실되는 것을 보전을 하기 위해서 이러한 새로운 제도를 밝혔다는 것인데요. 일부 지역에서는 이미 프랑스 내에서 시행이 되고 있습니다. 그리고 앞으로 며칠 동안에 프랑스 내 전역에 걸쳐서 실행이 될 것이고요. 그리고 혹시라도 이것을 어기는 위반을 하는 상점이 있을 경우에는 약 100만 원 정도가 되는 750유로에 대한 페널티를 물게 되는 것입니다. 그리고 네온 사인 같은 경우 이제 심야 조명 광고인데 이 조명의 사용을 완전 금지, 전체 다 금지 이런 것은 아니라 새벽 1시부터 6시 사이라고 합니다. 물론 공항이나 일부 기차역 등에서는 사용을 할 수도 있고요. All right, so France continues to experience these kinds of heat waves and excessive energy consumption because of the heat wave.
And this all comes as costs across Europe, energy costs, have spiraled since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So,
That's right.
Yeah, it's not a good situation there.
It's a vicious cycle.
It is.
네, 러시아의 우크라이나 침공 이후에 계속해서 에너지 가격이 폭등을 하고 있기 때문에 이에 대해서 또 이렇게 프랑스 정부에서 대응 조치를 내놨습니다. Can we finally read the last headline, please?
Shops in France will soon be ordered to keep their doors closed when using air conditioning and limit neon lighting in a bid to cut energy waste.
Well, those have been today's morning special headlines.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Special, your morning energy. I'm your special host, Jennifer Clyde. 7월 27일 수요일 모닝 헤드라인으로 시작하겠습니다. South Korea's new COVID-19 cases bounced back to nearly 100,000 on Tuesday, the largest number of daily cases reported since late April. Russia's Gazprom has announced a drastic cut to gas deliveries to Europe through its main pipeline due to maintenance work, cutting daily gas production to 20% of capacity. The freezing point above the Swiss Alps has reached new heights, smashing the previous record set 27 years ago by a whopping 70 meters. A chess-playing robot broke a 7-year-old boy's finger during a match at the Moscow Chess Open in Russia last week. Saudi Arabia is planning to spend up to $1 trillion to build the world's largest structure that will house 5 million people in a new desert city.
South Korea's new COVID-19 cases bounced back to nearly 100,000 on Tuesday, the largest number of daily cases reported since late April.
어제 약 10만 명에 가까운 확진자가 발생하면서 지난 4월 말 이후로 1일 코로나19 확진자 수가 최고치를 기록했습니다. Wow, so we're seeing very high numbers again. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Korea has seen a spike in the daily cases thanks to the rapid spread of the Omicron subvariant BA.5. Tuesday's count of 99,327 is more than double the previous day's 35,883 and the largest number since 111,291 that was reported way back April 20th. On Tuesday, South Korea added 17 deaths from COVID-19, putting the death toll at 24,907. The number of critically ill patients came to 168. That's up 24 from the previous day as well.
Yeah, so this is scary once again. I think at one point people stopped counting the numbers or checking the number of, positive cases. But I think especially with people now traveling overseas or beginning to travel overseas and people going on trips over the holidays or the weekends. They
Absolutely.
return and then get tested positive.
Yeah, there have been a lot of people traveling in particular that have reported to receiving COVID-19. I know friends that have come back through the airport and then tested positive. So I think travelers, it is an issue, but I think it's also mindset because you have people, it's not as scary as it was 2 years ago or maybe even a year ago where it was like, oh no, I don't want to get COVID. And there was this fear.
Yeah.
But it seems like, people don't fear it as much as they did 2 years ago. Obviously, nobody still wants to get it. I don't want to get it. I still haven't gotten it. But at the same time,
Knock on wood.
yeah, it certainly isn't the same fear that, I had for it 2 years ago. But yeah, please, still don't want it.
Yeah,
don't want to
the
get it.
fear we're talking about. 정말 처음을 생각을 했을 때는 굉장히 좀 공포를 느꼈던 것 같아요. 근데 어느 정도 좀 익숙해졌는지 확진자 수를 카운트하는 것도 좀 덜 신경 쓰는 것 같긴 하지만 but yeah, definitely the new COVID-19 cases have bounced back. So let's take a look at this expression, to bounce back. What does that mean?
Yeah, when something bounces, I think of a basketball because I think sports for everything.
Yeah.
But when a ball bounces, it's going down, it hits the ground, and then it goes back up. And in the same sort of way, the number of reported cases before was on April 20, for example, was over 100,000. And all of a sudden, it's gone down since April. And then as of yesterday, it bounced back up. So while it went down and then all of a sudden, it's usually a sharp bounce. When you think of a bounce, it's not like a gradual going up, but it's kind of like a ting. It goes back up in a hurried way. And that's what happened yesterday with the number of cases.
As a ball would bounce back up quite quickly, right?
Exactly.
So it was April, I guess. I thought we suffered the worst Omicron outbreak earlier this year in March. But I guess it was April.
Well, April was the last time that the numbers were over 100,000.
I see.
So, yeah.
bounce back이라고 하면은 되돌아오다, 다시 돌아오다, 혹은 긍정적으로 사용됐을 때는 다시 회복하다라는 뜻도 있지만 다시 이제 튕겨오르다 라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같아요. 이제 공을 연상하시면 될 것 같은데 공을 막 튕기면은 아래로 떨어졌다가 다시 위로 바로 그 자리로 되돌아오잖아요. 자, 그런 식으로 해서 the cases have bounced back to nearly 100,000 on Tuesday.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be just numbers.
Right.
Like in some cases, you can say like, I think of Hollywood actors, like let's say John Travolta
Right.
in Grease and some of his movies that he did back in the day. You know, his career went down for a while, but then he bounced back with some other movies in the 80s after kind of having disappeared for a while. So
Right.
sometimes you'll see artists or actors or singers have a bounce back in their career. Or some athletes, you know, might have been really good. They'll be all-star athletes, and then maybe they have an injury, they don't do so well, but then they bounce back later in their career.
Okay, is it similar to comeback?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
In Korea, 한국에서는 왜 컴백했다 많이 하잖아요. 그러니까 뭐 배우가 됐던, 뭐 스포츠 선수가 됐던, 운동 선수가 됐던, 막 한참 막 인기를 끌다가 잠시 잠잠했다가 다시 이렇게 화면에 나타나거나 다시 경기를 뛰기 시작할 때 그때도 뭐 사용을 할 수도 있겠네요. Okay. Can we read it one more time?
Yes. So South Korea's new COVID-19 cases bounced back to nearly 100,000 on Tuesday, the largest number of daily cases reported since late April.
And let's move on to the second headline.
Russia's Gazprom has announced a drastic cut to gas deliveries to Europe through its main pipeline due to maintenance work, cutting daily gas production to 20% of capacity.
러시아 가스프롬이 가스관 정비를 이유로 유럽으로 공급되는 천연가스 일일 물량을 전체 용량의 20% 수준으로 대폭 줄였습니다. So tell us about this.
Yeah, Gazprom said on Monday that it was halting the operation of another turbine in the Nord Stream 1 pipeline due to the technical condition of the engine. Now, this will have the current supply, which has already been reduced to just 40% of capacity. The European Union has accused Russia of resorting to energy blackmail, while the Kremlin says the gas disruption has been caused by maintenance issues and the effect of Western sanctions. The German government said there was no technical reason to limit gas supply, and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky accused Moscow of waging a gas war.
So it was said on Monday that it was halting the operation, right?
Yeah, to stop, essentially.
Right, stop. halt 하면 멈추다, 뭐 중단시키다라는 뜻인데요. 또 여기 보면은 Russia's Gazprom has announced a drastic cut to gas deliveries.
Yeah, not just a cut, but a drastic cut. And when something is drastic, it's significant. It's sudden. It's bigger than you want, or like an extreme change of some sort.
Right. cut라고 하면은 자르다, 뭐 줄이다라는 뜻이 있지만 drastic이 붙어서 대폭 삭감되다, 뭐 과감한, 과격한의 뜻인 drastic을 함께 사용을 해서 대폭 삭감하였다. 라는 식으로 이해를 하시면 될 것 같아요. For example, you could say that there was a drastic change, which means a very extreme change, right?
Absolutely.
As well?
You might say something like a drastic change in the weather. For instance, it was sunny, and then all of a sudden it started pouring with rain because the weather changed drastically, or it was a drastic change.
그렇죠. 날씨에도 사용할 수 있겠네요. All right, can we have it one more time?
Russia's Gazprom has announced a drastic cut to gas deliveries to Europe through its main pipeline due to maintenance work, cutting daily gas production to 20% of capacity.
And now, today's third headline.
The freezing point above the Swiss Alps has reached new heights, smashing the previous record set 27 years ago by a whopping 70 meters.
스위스 알프스 산맥의 빙점 고도가 27년 만에 무려 70m나 높아지면서 종전 기록을 깼습니다. Wow, the freezing point has reached new heights. And we're talking about, a whopping 70 meters.
That's right. And it's not just 5 meters or 10 meters, but it is a whopping 70 meters. So when something is whopping or it's a big amount. You know, there's a fast food burger chain in Korea that calls one of their burgers a Whopper, and the reason it's a Whopper is because it's big. It's bigger
right?
than a normal burger. It's not just a burger. It's a huge, gigantic burger, which is why it's described as a Whopper.
Oh, so a big burger. 그렇군요. 그러니까 whopping이라고 하면은 좀 과장된 표현이기는 하나 굉장히 큰, 무려 엄청난 이런 뜻이기 때문에 by a whopping 70 meters라고 하면 무려 70m나 이란 뜻이 되는 거죠. So give us more details about this.
Yeah, so an automated weather balloon had to rise 5,184 meters above the Swiss Alps before it found temperatures at freezing point, according to Switzerland's meteorological agency on Monday. It is extremely rare for the freezing point to be measured above 5,000 meters in Europe. The agency explained that this is a record smasher, breaking the previous record of 5,117 meters set in July of 1995. It is also 375 meters above the summit of Europe's highest peak, Mont Blanc, in the French Alps.
자, the freezing point에 대해서 이야기를 하고 있는데 freezing point라고 하면 빙점, 동결점이라는 말인데요. The normal freezing points I read are about maybe 3,000 to 3,500. So perhaps climate change is to blame?
Yeah, I mean, that's the talk, right? Of course, the higher you go in elevation, the colder it gets, which is why mountain peaks have glaciers and are white,
Right.
where the lower part of mountains are not. So when you're talking about elevation, the higher you go, the colder it gets. And in this particular case, they're saying that you got to go even higher to reach that 0 degrees Celsius or the freezing point.
Yeah, and imagine all the animals that depend on the cold. They're going to end up migrating higher and higher. And, ice is melting rapidly as well.
Absolutely. And also, if you go to visit, I mean, it's a tourist area as well. So I think the other thing that scares me is, what about the tourists down the road 5-10 years later where they go, you want to see the mountains with the snow-capped mountains, the white tips, but later on it's just bare.
Yeah.
Because everything's melted and the ice is gone. And obviously, a lot of lakes depend on the glaciers to feed them slowly.
Yeah.
Whereas if you don't have the glaciers feeding the water slowly and gradually, then, lakes could be disappearing as well.
That's true.
So certainly an environmental issue for sure.
Yeah, a sad reality. Let's have it one more time.
The freezing point above the Swiss Alps has reached new heights, smashing the previous record set 27 years ago by a whopping 70 meters.
And now here is the fourth headline.
A chess-playing robot broke a 7-year-old boy's finger during a match in Russia last week.
지난주 러시아에서 개최된 체스 경기 도중에 체스를 두는 로봇이 7살 아이의 손가락을 부러뜨리는 사고가 발생했습니다. Ouch. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, the incident took place at the Moscow Chess Open and happened after the boy hurried the AI-powered robot, according to the president of the Moscow Chess Federation. Now, video shows the boy attempting to make a move before the robot's arm had retracted after its move. The robot's mechanical claw then grabbed the boy's index finger for at least 15 seconds before several bystanders helped to free the child's hand and take him away from the table. Luckily, the boy continued to compete in the tournament after his finger was put in a cast, and he is actually reportedly one of the top 30 chess players in Moscow under the age of 9.
Yeah, he's only 7 years old, right? So this happened during a match.
Yeah, during a match, so while the match was taking place or in a match, you could say when something is during, it's while it's happening. And they're playing chess, and he reaches for a chess piece, and all of a sudden, the robot, it grabs him. I'm sure it must have been shocking to him at first.
Oh, yeah.
And then after that, pain probably coming in and then the realization of what's actually happening here.
Right. He had a cast on his finger. 자, 여기서 during a match라고 하면은 경기 도중에란 뜻이죠. 그래서 match라고 하면은 it's basically 뭐 경기라고 알고 계시지만 it can be any sort of game, like any organized game such as a soccer match, a tennis match, and any other sport.
Yeah, any kind of a game of some sort where there's a winner and a loser
Yeah.
is the way I would put it.
All right, let's go over the final headline for today.
I'll read that over.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. A chess-playing robot broke a 7-year-old boy's finger during a match in Russia last week.
And now the final headline.
Saudi Arabia is planning to spend up to $1 trillion to build the world's largest structure that will house 5 million people in a new desert city.
사우디아라비아가 새로운 사막 도시에 1조 달러, 우리 돈 약 1,300조 원을 들여 500만 명을 수용할 수 있는 세계에서 가장 큰 빌딩을 건설할 예정입니다. Wow, tell us about this. Amazing.
Yeah, the structure known as the Mirror Line will be comprised of 2 glass reflective buildings measuring up to 488 meters high. Now, for reference sake, the Lotte World Tower in Chamsil is 555 meters, so a little bit shorter than that, and it's 200 meters wide. Now, the building in Saudi Arabia will run parallel for 120 kilometers across coastal, mountain, and desert terrain. The 2 buildings will be connected via walkways, and a high-speed train will run underneath. The structure is projected to house 5 million people who will be able to travel end-to-end within a 20-minute commute with no need for cars, resulting in zero carbon emissions. It is expected to take 50 years to complete and will be located in the northwest of the country in the zero-carbon city of Neom.
Wow. So it's expected to take 50 years to complete?
50 years? Yeah, so I'm not going to be alive to see that probably.
Oh, come on. I was
be
wondering.
completed.
I was thinking the same thing. 50년 후쯤 돼야 이제 뭐.
Yeah, my kids will be able to go and check it out someday
Yeah,
perhaps.
that's what I thought too. 제가 50년 후에 이걸 볼 수 있을까요? Well, I hope to be able to, see it.
Yeah.
50 years later. Or who knows, it could be completed before that because I think they were hoping to finish by 2030. I mean, I've seen tons of articles on this and they all give different dates. But one article said it could take as long as 50 years. 50년까지도 걸릴 수 있겠다라는 이야기. 네.
Yeah, and I'm sure parts of it will be done well before that. It's just a matter of, in terms of the complete project, when they expect that to be done by.
Yes, and it's going to house 5 million people. So house in this case, it's not house, it's house 5 million people.
That's right. Sorry. Well, when you think of house, then you think of a noun, right? Like a place where you live. Now, when you're using house, same spelling as a verb, it's more of, how many people can live there as opposed to the place or the building that you live in. It's talking about living in somewhere where someone resides.
Okay.
And it's housing up to 5 million people. It can essentially, it can hold
as many as 5 million people.
Have as many as 5 million people live there. Essentially.
That's right, Jose. So house 5 million people. Let's take a listen to it one more time.
Sorry, I've lost my spot here. There it is. Saudi Arabia is planning to spend up to $1 trillion to build the world's largest structure that will house 5 million people in a new desert city.
And that does it for today's morning special headlines, everyone. Good morning and welcome to Morning Special, your morning energy. I'm your special host, Jennifer Clyde. 부탁드립니다. 7월 28일 Morning Headlines 시작합니다. The European Union's foreign policy chief has proposed a new draft text to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, saying there is no room left for future major compromises. The new chief of Russia's Federal Space Agency, Roscosmos, has announced Russia will opt out of the International Space Station ISS program after 2024 and focus on building its own orbiting outpost. A record-breaking rainfall has caused flash flooding in the St. Louis area, surpassing the city's one-day record since 1915. A 7.0 magnitude earthquake struck the northern Philippines on Wednesday, and the impact was felt in Manila. BTS has been nominated in 4 categories at this year's MTV Video Music Awards. The categories of Best K-pop, Best Choreography, Best Metaverse Performance, and Best Visual Effects.
The European Union's foreign policy chief has proposed a new draft text to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, saying there is no room left for future major compromises.
유럽연합회의 외교 안보정책 고위 대표가 향후 주요 타협의 여지는 없다고 밝히면서 2015년 이란 핵 합의 복원을 위한 타협안을 제시했습니다. All right, so tell us about this.
Yeah, according to the European Union's Josep Borrell's essay in the Financial Times, he said, I have now put on the table a text that addresses in precise detail the sanctions lifting as well as the nuclear steps needed to restore the JCPOA. He was referring to the 2015 deal called the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. He also added, after 15 months of intense, constructive negotiations in Vienna and countless interactions with the JCPOA participants and the U.S., I have concluded that the space for additional significant compromises has been exhausted. Borrell did not provide details about his proposal, but he suggested that time was running out to restore the deal under which Iran limited its nuclear program in return for relief from economic sanctions. Under the nuclear pact, Tehran limited its uranium enrichment program, a potential pathway to nuclear weapons, though Iran says it seeks only civilian atomic energy in exchange for relief from economic sanctions.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the beginning, it begins by saying the European Union's foreign policy chief has proposed a new draft text to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. 여기서는 이제 2015년 이란 핵 합의안을 복원하겠다라는 표현이 사용이 됐는데 revive means to what?
Revive basically means to bring back to life.
Bring back to life.
Yeah, something that was working, it was not working, and then now you're making it working again. Yesterday we talked about bounce back.
Yes.
And to a certain degree, it's got a similar feel. You have something that was started, maybe it's been put on hold for a bit, or it hasn't been used, but then you revive it and you bring it back so that it can be used again.
Oh, for example, such as like the economy or a business or a trend, it could be anything. If it is revived, then you're saying that it becomes active again or even popular again, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, you hear revival often used. Certain, music trends can be revived as well. You can even revive your heart. When you have a heart attack, then you restart your heart. You're reviving the heart after someone has a heart attack.
그렇게 보면 restart, restore, renew, 혹은 recover 이 모든 뜻을 다 가지고 있네요. 그래서 복원하다의 뜻으로 사용이 됐지만 부활시키다, 소생시키다의 뜻도 물론 가지고 있습니다. And towards the end, there is this expression. They said that there is no room left for future major compromises. What does it mean when you say, hey, there's no room left for something?
Yeah, when there's no room left, you're basically saying, I can't offer you anything else. So when you're talking about negotiations, usually, you're trying to get a little bit extra or get something for a little bit cheaper. And often, the salesperson or someone might say, look, like there's no room left for negotiations or there's nothing more that I can do here. We're at the end of the negotiation. Can't go any further.
네, 그래서 no room left. 여기에 room은 방이 아니라 약간의 공간, space 정도로 생각을 하시면 될 것 같아요. 그래서 여기서는 여지가 없다. There is no possibility, right? No room left for something.
And if you want to think of it physically in an image, think of a subway car.
Okay.
And you're trying to get on the subway in rush hour, and it's jam-packed. There's no room left. There's no room for anybody to get on. Or if you think of the subway chairs and you want to sit down, but the seats are all taken. There's no room left to sit.
그렇죠.
There's no room left to get on.
아예 탈 수가 없게 되겠죠. Oh, let's read it one more time. The European Union's foreign policy?
The European Union's foreign policy chief has proposed a new draft text to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, saying there is no room left for future major compromises.
And now the second headline.
Here we go. The new chief of Russia's Federal Space Agency, Roscosmos, has announced Russia will opt out of the International Space Station ISS program after 2024 and focus on building its own orbiting outpost.
러시아 연방우주공사인 로스코스모스의 사장은 러시아가 2024년 이후 국제우주정거장 ISS 프로그램을 탈퇴하고 독자적인 우주정거장을 구축하는 데 주력할 것이라고 밝혔습니다. Very interesting. So tell us more about this.
Yeah, Roscosmos chief Yuri Borisov told Russian President Vladimir Putin that the decision to leave this station after 2024 has been made. The comments can be interpreted as Russia is setting a hard line against Western sanctions. Russia, along with other international ISS partners, will certainly opt out of the space station in 2024 if the program ends as currently scheduled. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson issued a statement on Tuesday stating that the agency is committed to the safe operation of the International Space Station through 2030 and is coordinating with our partners. Nelson added that NASA has not been made aware of decisions from any of the partners, though we are continuing to build future capabilities to assure our major presence in low Earth orbit. Also, the space station's designs means that the U.S. and Russian segments of the station are interdependent, and it's not clear to what extent the U.S. could maintain its facilities should Russia leave the partnership.
Okay. Now let's quickly take a look at this expression, to opt out of.
Yeah, to opt out of something, you're choosing to do something. And in this particular situation, because it's opt out, you're choosing to go out.
Right.
If you're opting in, then you're choosing to go in. And a lot of times you'll hear this in contract negotiations. I'm a very big sports fan, so there's a lot of contracts in sports where athletes have an opt-in contract or an opt-out contract. So let's say they have a 5-year contract, but after 2 years, they might have an opt-out contract or an opt-out option.
Oh.
And what that means is if they do really well in those first 2 years, then they might believe that they can get even more money than what they originally signed for the 5-year contract.
So although you begin by signing a 5-year contract, you have the option to opt out.
Exactly.
Perhaps, 2 years into that contract.
Yeah. So if you did really well and you feel that you might be able to get even more money as a free agent after just the 2 years, then you're essentially canceling the contract because you're opting out of it. So then you can sign a new contract either with that team or any other team afterwards.
Right. 그래서 opt는 OPT인데요. 옵션을 생각하시면 될 것 같아요. You have the option to either leave or stay, right?
Exactly.
Or to enter even. 그래서 opt out of이니까 뭐 어떠한 단체라고 했을 때 단체에서 탈퇴하다, 뭐 손을 떼다라는 뜻이고 opt in이라고 하면 선택에 넣다, 어디에 들어가다. opt out면은 선택에서 제외하다의 뜻을 갖게 될 수도 있습니다. Alright, so one more time.
The new chief of Russia's Federal Space Agency, Roscosmos, has announced Russia will opt out of the International Space Station ISS program after 2024 and focus on building its own orbiting outpost.
And now, today's third headline.
A record-breaking rainfall has caused flash flooding in the St. Louis area, surpassing the city's one-day record since 1915.
미국 세인트루이스 지역에 돌발 홍수가 발생했습니다. 이는 1915년에 세워진 세인트루이스의 일일 최대 강우량을 뛰어넘는 기록적인 폭우입니다. Wow. All right, so tell us more about these flash floods in the St. Louis area.
Yeah, flash floods have swamped St. Louis area, breaking a century-old rain record. One person was found dead in a vehicle that had become stuck in approximately 8.5 feet of water in western St. Louis. In St. Louis's Ellendale neighborhood, fire personnel checked about 18 flooded homes and rescued 6 people and 6 dogs by boat. The flash flooding seemed to be an unceasing onslaught of extreme weather disasters, with ferocious wildfires, punishing heat waves, crippling droughts, and deadly floods in the United States and across the globe.
와, 지금 강한 단어들이 많이 사용이 됐는데 crippling droughts and deadly floods in the U.S. and across the globe. So it's not only happening in the U.S., but we're hearing about floods, or for example, in Canada, and even in areas in Europe as well, right?
Absolutely. It seems to be that time of year. I mean, even in Korea, we had some pretty heavy rainfall a couple of weeks ago, and I'm sure a little bit of flooding here and there. But yeah, this one causing loss of life as well as people being rescued.
네, 특히 이 기후 변화로 인한 폭염이나 뭐 홍수와 관련된 뉴스를 자주 듣게 되는 것 같아요, 요즘. 근데 이렇게 폭우가 쏟아진다거나 뭐 홍수, 물난리, 뭐 침수 등에 대한 기사를 보면은 꽤 자주 등장하는 표현이 바로 이건데요. flash flooding이에요. flood라고 하면 홍수라는 뜻이라는 거 알고 계실 거예요. 근데 flash, F-L-A-S-H가 붙어 있어요. So what is a flash flood or flash flooding?
A flash flood happens unexpectedly and very suddenly.
Okay.
So when you think of, there's a superhero called the Flash.
Yeah.
And the reason he's called the Flash is because he's so fast. Yeah. You don't even see him.
Right.
Because he moves so quickly. And in the same sort of way, the flooding here, it's not something where you can project it, where meteorologists and weather people are going to be saying there's going to be flooding here, because nobody knows, because the water came down so quickly in a certain area that it caused a flood that nobody expected.
Yeah, extreme or like severe rainfall could cause rapid flooding in especially low-lying areas.
Exactly.
Yeah, and these flash floods, they could just rip through, sweeping everything before them. Here we have the expression surpassing the city's one-day record. 그 도시의 일일 기록. 여기서는 일일 강우 기록을 뛰어넘었다라는 말이 될 텐데요. Surpass and surpass the city's one-day record.
Yeah, so when you're surpassing, you're passing something, but you're passing it beyond. You're going over and above what the previous record was. So they had a record that was 100 years old since 1915, and the new record of rainfall or the flood, it has passed the previous mark. So it has surpassed it.
And can we have it one more time?
A record-breaking rainfall has caused flash flooding in the St. Louis area, surpassing the city's one-day record since 1915.
다음으로 네 번째 헤드라인 들어볼게요.
A 7.0 magnitude earthquake struck the northern Philippines on Wednesday, and the impact was felt in Manila.
필리핀 북부에서 어제 규모 7.0의 강진이 발생을 했어요. 마닐라에서도 진동이 느껴졌다고 합니다. 이 진동이 마닐라, 이 기사에서도 나오는데 꽤 멀리 떨어진 지역인데도 이 진동이 감지가 됐다고 하네요. So tell us more about this as well.
Yeah, the earthquake struck in northern Luzon, the country's most populous island, at 8:43 a.m. local time, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. The agency originally designated the quake 7.1 magnitude before downgrading it to 7.0. Its epicenter was about 13 kilometers southeast of the small town of Dolores Abra province with a depth of 10 kilometers. The earthquake's impact was felt in the capital city, Manila, more than 400 kilometers away, where workers and residents evacuated from buildings and gathered on the street.
So it was felt in Manila, which is 400 kilometers away.
Yeah, so I mean, imagine an earthquake in Busan,
Oh my.
but we feel it here in Seoul.
I don't even want to imagine.
I mean, it's pretty significant.
Yes. So here it says this 7.0 magnitude quake struck an area in the northern Philippines. 자, struck 근데 struck meaning to hit or attack, 강타하다라는 뜻이죠. 그런데 자, 이 충격이, 이 진동이 느껴졌다. 400km 떨어진 곳에서까지, 마닐라에서까지 느껴졌다. The impact was felt. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, so the impact is when you have two bodies colliding, or you have a couple of things that collide into each other. That's an impact, and like we mentioned, when that to be felt in Manila, it had to be a very significant impact for that to happen.
Very much. So impact meaning the force or the effects of this earthquake.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, they registered it as 7.0, and I think we've had earthquakes here in Korea around the 4-point-somethings, which sometimes, you can feel something. You're like, what was that? And then you realize
Yeah.
later on in the day,
It was an
It's like,
earthquake.
oh, we had an earthquake. That's what that was. Whereas when something is 7.0, you know exactly what it was. Yeah.
All right. And can we have it one more time?
A 7.0 magnitude earthquake struck the northern Philippines on Wednesday, and the impact was felt in Manila.
And now let's go over our final headline.
BTS has been nominated in 4 categories at this year's MTV Video Music Awards. The categories of Best K-pop, Best Choreography, Best Metaverse Performance, and Best Visual Effects.
방탄소년단이 올해 MTV의 비디오 뮤직 어워즈에서 베스트 K-pop, 베스트 안무, 베스트 메타버스 퍼포먼스, 베스트 시각 효과 등 4개 부문에서 후보에 올랐습니다. So they've been nominated again for Best K-pop and in other categories as well. So good for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Finally, some good news, by the way. Although, with only 4 categories, maybe it's bad. You kind of expect them to win everything these days. But yes, indeed, the band is again nominated for Best K-pop, an award the band has won for the past 3 years for Yet to Come, The Most Beautiful Moment, which is the lead track from the band's first anthology album, Proof, that dropped this year. The band is also nominated for Best Choreography with its Permission to Dance, that was from 2021, and Best Metaverse Performance for its Minecraft performance, and Best Visual Effects, jointly nominated with Coldplay for their hit collaboration song My Universe, also from last year. BTS's third English language single, Permission to Dance, has 6 other songs it's competing against for Best Choreography, including Doja Cat's Woman, Harry Styles' As It Was, and FKA Twigs featuring The Weeknd's Tears in the Club.
Some very big names, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Including BTS.
Including BTS. 네. 이렇게 BTS가 올해 1개 부문도 아니고 4개 부문에서 4개 부문에서 이제 후보에 올랐는데요. They have been nominated 하면서 BTS has been nominated 이렇게 시작하는 기사였었죠. 그러니까 후보에 올랐다. 후보로 선정되었다. Be nominated. You could also be nominated in a category, right?
Absolutely. So when you're nominated for something, you're being considered. You haven't won yet, but you're a finalist. People are considering you might be able to win. Whereas if you're not nominated, you can't even win.
Right.
So we often see this with the Academy Awards. You can also talk about presidential elections, things like that. You need a nomination before you're able to actually win.
So, be nominated까지 챙겨주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. Let's have it one more time.
BTS has been nominated in 4 categories at this year's MTV Video Music Awards. The categories of Best K-Pop, Best Choreography, Best Metaverse Performance, and Best Visual Effects.
And that is a wrap for today's morning special headlines. Good morning and welcome to Morning Special, your morning energy. I'm your special host, Jennifer Clyde. 7월 29일 Morning Headlines 시작합니다. The total population of South Korea fell for the first time last year due to the country's low birth rate and rapid aging. Bangladesh has asked the International Monetary Fund for a loan, reportedly seeking $4.5 billion. Australia's inflation rate rose 6.1% in the June quarter, the fastest annual pace in 21 years as consumers forked out more for everything from fuel to food. The leaders of Japan and Indonesia have agreed to strengthen their ties in maritime security, as well as increase cooperation on climate change, energy, and investment between the 2 Asian archipelago nations. A recently finished $588 million bridge in Los Angeles has been closed only 2 weeks after it opened due to illegal activity and public safety.
The total population of South Korea fell for the first time last year due to the country's low birth rate and rapid aging.
낮은 출생률과 급속한 고령화로 지난해 우리나라 전체 인구수가 처음으로 감소했습니다. So it has been reported that there has been a drop in Korea's population.
Yes, a drop year on year, according to a census by Statistics Korea. This was taken on November 1st, 2021, and Korea's population then was 51.74 million, and that was down 91,000, 0.2% from the previous year. This is also the very first on-year decline we've had. The agency began compiling data in 1949, and it's the first time we've seen something like this happen. So it's big news. Not a huge decline, but it's the first time we've experienced something quite like this.
Okay, so it's the first time we've seen a decline in the population? No, or rather a drastic decline?
Well, no, a decline like this.
A decline?
Yes.
Oh.
So what they're doing is they use the number of childbirths. They also use death data and cross-border movements of foreigners living in Korea for more than 3 months. That's how they calculate the total population. And, also, the other thing is we're heading to become a super-aged society by 2025.
Yes.
And that's when 20% of our total population is 65 or over. As of November 2021, we're at 16.8%. That's 8.71 million people. So we're well on the way to becoming that super-aged society. And what's also interesting, a lot more people are living alone. One-person households now, they're on the rise by 7.9% to 7.17 million households. That's a record high. That means single-person households are a third of the total population, 33.4%. And for multicultural families, good news for us, we're up by 4.7% to 385,000.
All right. Well, this is because, of course, when we're talking about Korea's population, we're not only talking about Korean citizens, we're also talking about foreigners that are residing in Korea.
I count. I'm
Right.
living here.
I count as well. So anyone that has lived in Korea for more than 3 months, is that how they calculated the total population?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
If you're here for more than 3 months, then you're not just a tourist. You're
not.
living, working, or studying here.
That's right. 자, 여기서 the total population, 총 인구를 말하는데요. 지금 현재 국내에 거주하고 있는 외국인을 포함한 총 인구를 말하겠죠. So you also mentioned there are many one-person households, right?
Yes, that's right. So we're looking at 7.17 million single-person households.
And I guess that would mean less number of childbirths as well?
Yes, the birth rate is down, and it continues to go down. So we shall have to see what happens. But certainly, with the economy in the state that it is, I don't think people are planning to have a lot of kids because everyone's worried about how can I feed myself and the rest of my family.
That is true. I mean, that is reality. Even, married couples or even people that are not yet married. Ones that aren't married yet, they're like, will I be able to support a family?
Yeah,
right?
it's a big concern, but the government has been bringing in measures to help those who are looking to have children. So cross fingers, things will get better, but certainly this is the first time we've seen this decline in population.
Okay. Then can we have it one more time?
The total population of South Korea fell for the first time last year due to the country's low birth rate and rapid aging.
네, 낮은 출생률과 급속한 고령화로 지난해 우리나라 전체 인구수가 처음으로 감소했다라는 기사를 다뤄봤고요. Let's move on to the second headline.
Bangladesh has asked the International Monetary Fund for a loan, reportedly seeking $4.5 billion.
방글라데시가 국제통화기금 IMF에 45억 달러, 우리 돈 약 5조 4천억 원 규모의 차관을 요청했습니다. So Bangladesh has asked the IMF for support, and obviously it's not the first South Asian country to do so, right?
It's actually the third this year from South Asia. Sri Lanka and Pakistan have already sought support from the IMF, and Bangladesh has now joined them. They've asked to start negotiations for a loan. However, the Bangladesh finance minister has said that even though negotiations have started, the economy was in no way in trouble. So it's hard to tell. We're getting mixed signals about this.
Yes.
But certainly Bangladesh is having a similar issue to Sri Lanka and Pakistan, and it's running low on foreign reserves. We have fears of a global recession. That means exports are falling. Also, money that would usually be sent home from those working overseas has been reduced because living costs have gone up.
Right.
And of course, the war in Ukraine has also exacerbated problems. The IMF have confirmed, a senior official from them said Bangladesh has asked for a new loan, and this is under the Resilience and Sustainability Trust. Now, according to reports I've read, this loan would be a maximum of $1 billion. However, a Bangladesh newspaper reported this week that Bangladesh wants $4.5 billion from the IMF.
Especially there, since, if you are a country that relies strongly on exports, it's going to be a very natural thing for you to feel, I guess, will we be able to do this? We might need some help, right?
Exactly. But as we know from experience, dealings with the IMF can be very, very difficult and very damaging sometimes to each country. There's a price to be paid for this kind of loan. So it's a serious step for any country to make.
Right, of course. So Bangladesh has asked for a loan. loan이라고 하면은 대출 혹은 동사를 사용했을 때는 대출하다. 뭔가를 좀 대여하다, 빌리다, 빌려주다 이렇게 많이 사용이 되는데 여기서는 차관을 요청하다라는 뜻으로 사용이 됐고요. Early on, there was a part where you said that the Bangladesh finance minister said that, negotiations have started, but the economy was in no way in trouble.
Yes. So this expression, in no way in trouble, is trying to emphasize as much as possible. It's not true. Absolutely. 100% not true. We're not in trouble. Please believe me.
Okay.
That's the kind of emphasis the minister was making. He wants to make absolutely sure that the public can have confidence in the government that Bangladesh is doing okay, but they do need a helping hand.
Okay. So it's just a way of saying something strongly, just to emphasize, right? So in no way in trouble pretty much means not in any way in trouble, 혹은 not at all true.
Exactly.
We're not in trouble.
And we say, ever since the 90s, I think, no way was really big back in the 90s when you didn't believe something.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to Singapore tomorrow.
No way.
Yeah, it's a lie. I'm not going to Singapore.
말도
I'm
안
staying
돼.
at home. But yes, so we can use this expression, no way, to mean I don't believe you. I don't think it's true.
All right. Let's listen to it one more time.
Bangladesh has asked the International Monetary Fund for a loan, reportedly seeking $4.5 billion.
네, 두 번째 헤드라인이었고요. And now this is the third headline for today.
Australia's inflation rate rose 6.1% in the June quarter, the fastest annual pace in 21 years as consumers forked out more for everything from fuel to food.
호주의 소비자 물가 상승률이 6.1%로 21년 만에 최고치를 기록했습니다. 이로써 소비자들은 연료에서 식품에 이르기까지 더 많은 돈을 지출할 것으로 나타났습니다. I mean, the cost of everything has been rising.
It is, but rising more in some countries than it is in others, I
Yes,
think. So this is a big deal for Australia. So we have the consumer price index rising by 6.1% during this April to June period, but other things have been rising at an even faster rate. So transport costs have increased by 13.1%. That's thanks to the record increases in fuel prices.
Oh, my.
The cost of new homes rose by 9% from the same time last year, and fruit and vegetable prices have also risen by almost 6% this quarter in Australia. They've had some issues with heavy rains on the east coast that have caused some problems with their farming and distribution. So Australia, things are not looking great. The Treasurer of Australia actually told the media inflation will get worse before it gets better, and that the government is assuming inflation is going to peak somewhere towards the end of 2022. So there's a little way to go. And also, their Reserve Bank meets next Tuesday, and experts are expecting there could be another rate hike when they meet.
Everything's about rises and hikes and peaking towards... Oh, this is terrible. I mean, we're talking about numbers like 13.1 and 9%, but just between the months of April
to June,
right?
that's what we call the June quarter.
Right. So what exactly is a June quarter? I mean, quarter, we know it's 1/4. 4분의 1인데
Yes.
June quarter라고 하면은
So
뭔가요?
we have 4 quarters in a year. We have the January, February, March quarter. We call the March quarter. We then have the April, May, June quarter. We then have the July, August, September quarter, and then the October, November, December quarter. So December, September, June, and March, those are the names we give to the 4 quarters. So you'll see this in financial reports. They'll talk about the March quarter or the June quarter like this.
Okay. 그래서 4월부터 6월에 해당하는 그 기간이니까 즉 2분기를 말하겠죠? The second quarter it would be?
Yeah, we can also say first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter like this.
Okay. And let's take a look at this expression, the fastest annual pace.
Yes. So here, pace is the speed of something. So we're saying it's the fastest speed, and annual is of the year. So it's the fastest increase in a year that we've seen.
I see.
So it's a record breaking, as it were, for Australia.
연간 가장 빠른 속도, pace라고 하면은 speed를 뜻하니까 어떤 일이 벌어지는, 일어나는 것에 대한 그 속도를 말할 때 많이 사용되죠. 그리고 fork out을 볼게요. Fork out, what does this mean?
We're not talking about cutlery.
No.
We're talking about giving something to someone. If you fork out something, it means you're giving cash, giving money to whoever it may be. You can also fork over, which is like hand over, to pay up something. In this case, Australian consumers are forking out more money for everything.
From fuel to food to transportation
To forks.
to forks.
Yeah,
Yes.
forks. I'm sure forks have gone up in price as well.
그러니까 포크라고 할 때 물론 fork지만 여기서는 fork하고는 아무런 상관이 없죠. fork out 혹은 fork over라고 한다면은 뭔가를 좀 지불을 하다. 근데 마지못해 지불을 하는 거예요. 어쩔 수 없이 지불을 해야 하니까 돈을 내다라는 말이죠. 억지로 하는 거예요. I guess you could also think of forklifts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's anything that has 2 or more prongs that can be used to lift or transport something.
All right. Can you read it for us one more time?
Australia's inflation rate rose 6.1% in the June quarter, the fastest annual pace in 21 years as consumers forked out more for everything from fuel to food.
All right. Let's now move on to the next headline. 다음으로 네 번째 헤드라인 살펴보겠습니다.
The leaders of Japan and Indonesia have agreed to strengthen their ties in maritime security, as well as increase cooperation on climate change, energy and investment between the 2 Asian archipelago nations.
일본과 인도네시아 두 정상이 해양 안보 관계를 강화하는 한편 기후변화와 에너지 및 투자에 관한 협력도 증대하기로 합의했습니다. Tell us more about this.
Indonesian President Joko Widodo has been on a whirlwind tour. Tuesday, China. Wednesday, Japan. Yesterday, Korea. And so at his press conference on Wednesday with Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, they talked about Japan providing support for reinforcing Indonesian maritime security, as well as loaning money for Indonesian infrastructure projects and disaster prevention. And Japan is also looking as to whether they can provide Japanese patrol vessels for Indonesian waters to build up its maritime capabilities. So a very positive meeting, with Widodo also welcoming new Japanese investments. And, there are worries about China. China encroaching on Indonesia's exclusive economic zone in the South China Sea. However, on Wednesday, neither Kishida nor Widodo mentioned China by name during the press conference.
So the leaders of Japan and Indonesia, they have agreed to strengthen their ties. Strengthen ties라고 하면은 basically ties in this case would be that connection or that bond you have.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. Whatever links the two of you together. In this case, it's about investment, it's about maritime security, and it's about creating projects together.
Right, among nations, right?
Yes.
And let's take a look at maritime security.
If something is about maritime, it's all about the sea.
The sea.
Yes, so it's sea security, meaning keeping the waters that belong to you safe. In the same way that we have boats along the coast of South Korea
Yes.
that keep South Korea's waters safe. They are our maritime security.
Maritime 하면은 그냥 ocean, sea를 떠올리시면은 될 것 같아요. So maritime security 하면은 해양 안보가 되겠죠. And between the two Asian archipelago nations, 발음이 조금 어려울 수도 있어요. Archipelago.
Yes, it's spelt Archipelago, and it means a group or a chain of islands. So Japan is not just one island, it's several.
Yes.
And Indonesia is not just one island, it's many. So we can call them archipelago nations, meaning they're countries that are made up of a group of islands.
archipelago 하면 다도해, 군도, 열도란 뜻인데 아시아의 두 열도 국가 간에라고 했으니 여기서는 일본과 인도네시아를 지칭을 하게 되는 거죠. Let's have it one more time.
The leaders of Japan and Indonesia have agreed to strengthen their ties in maritime security, as well as increase cooperation on climate change, energy, and investment between the two Asian archipelago nations.
And now, let's go over the final headline for today.
A recently finished $588 million bridge in Los Angeles has been closed only 2 weeks after it opened due to illegal activity and public safety.
미국 로스앤젤레스 시내에 5억 8,800만 달러, 우리 돈 약 7,700억 원을 들여 만든 다리가 개통된 지 불과 2주 만에 불법 활동과 공공안전 문제로 폐쇄되었습니다. So let's quickly take a look at this. So it's only been 2 weeks since they opened the bridge and it's been closed.
Yes, it opened to the public on July 10th. It's the 6th Street Viaduct Bridge. And the chief of police says it has become a place where people come to find their 15 minutes of fame. We've had people climbing on the bridge. They've been interrupting traffic, posting demonstration on social media. They've been tagging the bridge with spray paint. There have been drivers racing and spinning their wheels and even crashing. And there have also been other bizarre incidents, like a man getting a haircut in the middle of the bridge, or a man in a red cape shadowboxing on the bridge. It was closed for 3 nights over the weekend, and on Tuesday night, the LAPD announced it's going to be closed indefinitely. They're going to install speed bumps, and they're considering other measures to prevent people from messing about and causing havoc.
So why of all bridges? I mean, this isn't the only bridge, but why of all bridges do people choose to do all these strange things?
Well, it's brand new, I think, for a start, but also it's in a location of one of the most iconic bridges in LA. There was a bridge there before that was built in 1932 that its structure was deteriorating. So it was demolished and this new bridge was put in place. If you watch Terminator 2 Judgment Day, for example, you can see the old bridge. It's in a lot of movies.
I see. 그래서 원래 그 자리에 다른 다리가 물론 있었지만 그 다리를 무너뜨리고 새로 이제 만들어진 다리가 되겠죠. And also, like in the article, it says it's a place where the chief of police says people come to find their 15 minutes of fame.
Yes.
What do we mean by this?
Well, we have to go back to Andy Warhol, that famous pop artist who coined this phrase, 15 minutes of fame. The idea that in the future, everybody would be on TV or have their name in lights for 15 minutes for a very short time. And thanks to social media, the internet these days, everybody can be famous for a little while.
Yeah.
A video or a photo goes viral and then everybody forgets about it.
I guess this is all due to, maybe not 100%, but I mean, yeah, social media. People want to be on social media, show off on social media, getting
Exactly.
a haircut. They want to show that to people they know or the world through social media.
Yeah, I guess you could say it's all about the bragging rights.
Yeah.
Saying, I did this, look at me, when in fact you're just causing trouble for all the pedestrians and all the drivers.
I know. Bridges are meant to be for vehicles, not for people to play jokes or play tricks and do stupid things on. Okay, let's have it one more time.
A recently finished $588 million bridge in Los Angeles has been closed only 2 weeks after it opened due to illegal activity and public safety.
And those have been today's morning special headlines.